There's not too many places that you could drill in our area if we don't hit water. Most people don't think too much about water or lack of water. It's just part of their daily life, and rain, snow, it continues.
At one time, this town had scores of very water-intense businesses, furniture makers, textiles, paper mills, all of which needed a lot of water. And this community put in a remarkable system, which is based on a series of reservoirs that were built in the late 1800s on the southern Adirondack Range, and then gravity fed into the city. Unfortunately, that system was built for a business community that's much bigger than what is here today, and now they have to pay for that infrastructure, which is both old and really big. You look at that and say, here's a problem this community has, which is not unlike a lot of communities that have some history, but they have this resource. They have billions of gallons of water.
Well, I think the general public needs to be more aware of where their water comes from, and that it's actually precipitation based, and for the city of Glens Falls, it flows into the reservoirs and essentially is piped to their house. I mean, most people don't even give a thought on where that water comes from. They just turn on the faucet or turn on the shower and take their 10-minute shower. And people should be cognizant that water is a limited resource.
Right now, the city itself is harvesting 1.5 billion gallons of water out of that system. But they don't actually need 1.5 billion gallons. They need less than 1 billion gallons. But they have to bring that much water down because their system is so old and so leaky that they lose a lot of water in the process of just trying to bring it to their citizens.
Basically, when we looked at the watershed property, we did what's called a recharge analysis to determine how much water is coming in to keep the reservoirs full, how much is continuing flowing off the reservoir properties, and how much would be available for just use as a spring water source.
We came and said, how about this? What if we were to drill a well right in the midst of all these reservoirs, and we might take something like 10 to 25 million gallons of water to start our operation.
And we're using approximately 3% of that excess.
In the process of doing that, if we built a financial model that brought a disproportionate return back to the city, what we'd really like to do is have that 25 million gallons help solve that hundreds of millions of gallons of problem that the city has. So what we immediately did was structure an agreement that said we're going to pay many times more for this water than not only any other bottled water maker, but any other customer you have. Pick the largest rate you have and we will put a multiple on that. We eventually settled on a little more than 6 times the highest rate that anyone in Glens Falls is paying for water. And the reason we picked that number is because it produced a significant enough revenue for the city to actually begin to make appreciable improvements in their own water infrastructure. If we're successful at this, we've turned the entire notion of seeking water from a contest for how do I get the water without anybody noticing, to how do I get the water in such a way that we deliver maximum value. How do we take a community's water and turn it into a way of solving problems that go beyond what the community even realized it had? I mean, there are very few things in life that literally connect me with you no matter who you are. We each need a certain amount of water to survive. We each need water responsibly used in our society, our culture, our economy in order for us to thrive. So I look at that and say that having a responsible party that's trying to do things in a better way, this is exactly the right place for just to start.
Thank you.